Welcome back to another episode of A Superwoman Handbook, where we cover all episodes honest and raw, and we try to cover every single thing that could possibly happen so that we can create the most comprehensive handbook to help you get through this four-letter word called life. In life, we have dreams, and you never know what that dream may be. And today we're going to talk about the dream of starting a school. How do you start a school? Why do you start a school? What are even the steps? I mean, I think you buy crayons, you do a million more really complex things. So walk us through. How do you wake up one day and have the idea in your head to start a school? And then after you tell yourself that you want to do this, how do you tell your friends and family? And then what do you do?
Thank you, Gillian. I'm so glad to be here. And I can tell you how to start a school in more than 25 words or less. I can certainly make a stab at doing it in 25 words or less. I'll make it as concise as I possibly can. I'm very fortunate because I was the single mom of a wonderful son, and he was a little son just 32 years ago. He's all grown up now, but he was one of these kids that are what we educators call a kinesthetic learner. And I put my hands up because for that don't know, a kinesthetic learner is a student that learns best with their hands. They learn by doing and by doing projects and becoming involved in real life situations, learning with their hands. And that was my son from day one. He was a kinesthetic learner almost before he was even 1 years old. I knew that he was a kinesthetic learner just by the way he interacted with the world and learned things. And, all toddlers learn with their hands, but a kinesthetic learner learns with determination with their hands.
So you mean like Aristotle learning by doing type
Yes,
thing?
learning by
Okay.
doing. That's right. There's three modalities of learning to give you a quick crash course on how this works. There's visual learners, which most of us are. It's been proven that most people are visual learners and they learn best with their eyes. But then there's also auditory learners that learn best by listening and learning how the world works and learn with their ears and with the sense of hearing. But there are a few of those odd ones out there that learn with their hands. They're the kids that are in the classrooms for mostly visual learners because most teachers are visual learners and
Mhm.
most teachers teach to the visual learners. And so the few that are auditory and the very few, less than 5%, are kinesthetic. And that 5% is a made up number. I don't know what the real percentage is of kinesthetic learners, but it's very small. And those kinesthetic learners are the ones that oftentimes are great kids, very intelligent kids, want to do the right thing kind of kid, but they learn with projects. That's how they learn best. And so in a visual world where most teachers teach to visual learners, they're struggling to do it the best that they can, knowing that they need to get involved and be using their hands to really learn the best that they can learn. So, as an educator, I knew that about my son early on, and I worried about it, but I knew how to live with him as a toddler. I knew what he needed to learn as a toddler, and he did that. And he showed me all the time that he was a kinesthetic learner. Sometimes it was negative things that would happen, like the day he took apart the balcony on our two-story duplex. Yeah, with a screwdriver that I didn't know he had access to. And I looked out the window and there he was holding the railing off of the now exposed two-story, second-story
And I bet
balcony.
he was
And
so proud of himself.
yes, he was a big smile. Like, look what I did, Mom. He was about 3.5.
Was this an era where, like, IEPs, were those a thing yet
Okay,
when he
well,
was in school?
yeah, but actually, what I'm relaying to you now is before he ever started school as a toddler. But when he did get to school, lucky for him, I was his kindergarten teacher.
Okay.
So this is 35 years ago. So this is a long time ago. So I was his kindergarten teacher, and I knew what he needed, and I really, quite frankly, knew about kinesthetic learners before. So I really worked hard at teaching to all modalities. So the kids in my class, not just him, but the others, I I had project oriented, what they used to call learning centers. And they don't use that word anymore, but that's what I did in that era. And I had provided lots of learning centers, which was all about doing. I had a water table, I had a garden, I had a book bubble, things that where they were exposed to what I wanted them to learn, what the curriculum was right there in my classroom, but it was all based on doing things to learn it. And so that was a lucky start for him. But then he entered first grade. He had a fabulous teacher, but she was not learning center oriented. She went by the curriculum provided by the school, and at a public school, she was again a wonderful teacher. But he then had to accept the the environment of visual learners because that's the way most teachers teach, and they still do today. And I'm not faulting them. I never blame the teaching staff or the principal. It was never an argument about that. It was all about what am I going to do to help him become educated and get through school. And so I thought about it and I thought about it and I thought, well, and homeschooling was just getting a little started then. And I thought about homeschooling and I thought, as a single parent, can I teach school and also teach school at home to my son? I thought that's going to be challenging, but maybe, and I put that at the back of my on the back burner to think about. And I thought more and more about it, about how I could make a difference. And I was really concerned about as he approached middle school, when he became a big sixth grader, seventh grader, eighth grader, how would that work? How is he going to survive in a visual world when he's a kinesthetic learner? And I know he is, you know. And the part that made it even harder is that I knew what to do about it, but
Yeah.
I couldn't obviously guide every teacher he had, especially when he got to middle school when would have two or three or four teachers. So I was concerned. I was a worried parent. So I put a little tiny classified ad. You remember what those are? A little
Wow.
tiny
Yeah.
ad in the paper anonymously because I still worked for the school district. So I put a little tiny ad in the paper and I asked, are there any parents out there that are concerned about your middle school starting middle school? And then they called it junior high.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Junior high, any junior high kids out there, parents out there. And I put my phone number anonymously
Okay.
and I got phone calls, yes, in my community.
So you were just offering like a conversation group with this ad.
Yeah, I didn't know where it was gonna lead. I just didn't know maybe if I talked to other people who had the same concerns I had, I would be able to come up with a plan. I knew a plan, but I didn't know if I was capable of doing it all by myself. And that led me back to homeschooling. And there were no other schools to be had except public schools or private schools. Those were my two choices. There were no such things as charter schools then. This was way back in 1991. So I didn't have a clue how that was going to work. Actually, it was more like 1989 because I had this conversation with myself 3 years before he got to middle school. So I promised myself I was going to do something, and I did. I put that ad in the paper, and I got phone calls. And when those parents would call me, usually the mom, I would ask her questions about her child that's about to start middle school. And if I got answers to my questions that led me to believe this is probably a kinesthetic learner, that's when I convinced myself that I needed to start a kinesthetic school just for kinesthetic learners. And I even had the name picked out, hands-on learning. That's what I was going to call it, hands-on learning. So believe it or not, I had 9 parents of 9 students who said, yes, we want that. We can make that. We can help you. We can do that. They were my very first community of parents that saw the world like I did through the eyes of their kinesthetic child. And so my very first class, when I opened my school, which at that time had to be a private school because that was the only way, unless you were a public school, you were a private school, because homeschooling was just getting its start and there weren't any other choices like there are today. So I opened a kinesthetic school and a private school. They agreed to pay me tuition. So I had to pay myself and another teacher to be able to make this happen. I started in that two-story duplex where he took the balcony apart. That downstairs, I had 2 rooms. One was a living room and one was a bedroom of a little apartment that was down there. That became our first school with 9 students, and he was one of them. He was one of the 9 students, my son. I always used to kidding me. He had the longest commute in any kid. He got out of bed, brushed his teeth, got dressed, and went downstairs to go to school.
And
So,
now
yeah.
so then what kind of, like my mind immediately goes to, like, the logistics,
Oh,
legality.
yes. Oh, yeah.
What was that?
Well, remember this was 1991, not 2025.
You're right, yes,
1991.
okay,
So
different.
there yeah, but I knew I had to tell somebody, and I advertised it, this way, and these parents were wonderful. They were so motivated to help me get this done. They helped me paint walls, they helped me find furniture, used furniture that I could afford to buy because I had no budget other than my checkbook, and so, it started out slow, but I was doing this my motivation was my son and their kids too. I fell in love with their kids and I wanted to do it for their families and their sanity because I knew what I was going through, and we shared all that in advance of me making the decision to open the school. And it was painful and it was lots of hard work. I went to the swap meet every weekend. I'm not a fan of swap meets or garage sales, but I had to raise the money somehow, and I sold all of my son's old baby clothes and old um, in good condition baby furniture to young parents who needed them for a discounted price. And and that's how I built a little nest egg to get started. Desks to buy and supplies to buy and things that had to be purchased. Some of it we could find secondhand and or they could donate, but a lot of it we had to purchase in the beginning. And these people helped me. They helped me do it, and I have my first very, very specific learning module happen with that community because I learned how to work with the community. And these people weren't educators, they were just wanting to help me, and they've had great ideas that I didn't even think of, they really did. So it was really successful because of the community, and so we grew and we grew, and the second see, was it the second? No, it was the 3rd year as we expanded. We started out at middle school, and then we began to grow down to lower grades and higher grades, and the 3rd year, I needed more space than that little place, that little efficiency apartment in the bottom of my house. So I was willing to move. I was going to move us out of there so that the school could grow up to the 2nd floor where that balcony was that he took apart. So if the balcony was secure and I
Balcony that
had
started it
oh,
all.
no. But I knew I couldn't just do that. I had to get permission from the city. So I did. I called the fire department 2 months before the school year was to start. I told them I wanted to expand, and they knew at my school because I'd done that legitimately and properly for the city, and they said, "You're ready to expand?" And so he said, "Well, we'll have to send the fire inspector out." So they sent the fire inspector out, and he looked at what I wanted to do, and I wanted to go to the 2nd floor with students, turn bedrooms into classrooms, and other things became different. I put walls where walls didn't used to be. I did some reconstruction up there with my community helping me make that happen. And so it all came together, and the fire inspector gave me a full permission to expand to do that. And that was wonderful. So I thought, wow. So I hired more teachers. That's the first thing I did. And then I accepted more students because I had parents calling me wanting their kids in my school. But when I asked them those particular questions that I asked the first group, they had visual learners, auditory learners, all it was a mixture. So I knew I was going to have to change the name of my school from hands-on learning to another name because we wouldn't be a kinesthetic school anymore. In other words, I had to be
I was gonna
flexible.
ask, could visual and auditory learners, could they learn in the same way as a
Yes.
kinesthetic learner?
That's the advantage. Can go that way, but it just can't go the other way.
I was gonna say, is it like, are they like type O blood? Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah, Right. Yeah, visual and auditory learners do very well because we live in a visual world, and it's not by happenstance that that happens. So all of those learning centers had to be explained and demonstrated by listening and visualizing what was expected of those, so that the visual and auditory learners are definitely at an advantage than the kinesthetic learner. So, but I knew if I did that, I would have to tweak my dream. It had to be flexible, tweak my dream a bit, and change the name so that everyone would know that it was a school for all kinds of students, all kinds.
So what was the draw for those parents for their kids that weren't like, what was the draw to your school?
My mission statement, it's all about small class size and individualized instruction. And that's our mission statement today, because this school has grown up and is doing very, very well and is surviving and thriving today, for very much so. And we've changed thousands of lives. So that third year, when the fire department gave me permission and I was ready to expand, bring in more students of all learning modalities and hire more teachers, which I did. Well, 10 days, just 10 days, this is all true. 10 days before the school year was to start, I get a call from the fire chief, and I knew him. The fire inspector was new to our town, but I knew the fire chief, and he said, "Sandy, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. We have a new fire inspector, as you know, and he I understand he gave you permission, and you can't move up those kids up there into the second floor. You need fire escapes on that second floor." I go, "Oh my gosh, how many fire escapes?" He says, "At least two, one on each side of the building," as it was a two-story duplex, you see. I went, "Oh, okay. Let me think about this." So after we hung up and I screamed in a pillow,
Yeah.
then my common sense kicked in, and I thought about who do I know in the community that would be able to maybe offer some advice or some kind of a solution, because I've got all these additional teachers. When I say all, I think I had to hire three more teachers.
Still.
Parents, I think I had registered at least 10 or 12, a good dozen of new students that were going to come to our school, based on the new help that I had just hired. And I had to fix this in 10 days. How was I going to do this? So I called my good friend Steve, who was a contractor in our town, and I privately told him my problem. And he listened very quietly, I might add. I thought I was worried the whole time I was talking. He's going to say, click. I wasn't sure what was going to happen. So he listened and he said, "Can I make some calls and call you back?" And I said, "Sure, if you
And
whatever
you
you think you need to do." I was looking for anything, any kind of an answer. And he called me back. He talked to, first of all, a new architect that was in town, because he knew that he had to get an architect stamp before he could build two fire escapes. He had to
oh,
get permission from the city to do that building, from a city permit.
okay.
So he got the architect to say, "Absolutely, Steve, anything you design and put on paper, I'm going to stamp it." So that helped. And then he
Okay.
called his partner, his carpenter partner that knew
Okay.
how to wield a hammer, and said, "Will you help me build these fire escapes fast?" And they were already partners, and then his partner said yes. And then he called me back and said, "We'll do it. And here's what we're going to do." So they had to go to the city to get the permit. They did that. I didn't do that part. They did it for me. They went to the city, got the permit with the architect's stamp, and then they started on the next Monday. That gave them 7 days to build those two fire escapes off of my duplex where I lived. And I was busy trying to get the rooms ready and move out.
I was just about to say, well, are you still living in the duplex or have you moved
I'm
into a
not,
new place?
no, but this is what people ask me that. I say, I live there now more than I lived there when I lived there.
That makes sense.
Because now it's a school, and we've added buildings and a gymnasium, and everything it's now a big, wonderful school. No one ever believes me when I tell this story, because they look at the campus now, it looks like a school. It doesn't look like anything like a school, like a home where I lived, but it was. We've since turned that building where the school grew up into an admin building. Our offices that are there, our library is there, but it still has those fire escapes. because they built those fire escapes and that still exist today. And it was a definite reminder to me about my roots. It was all
Absolutely.
because of my community. The first day of school, which was 7 days later after while those fire escapes appeared before my eyes, Steve and his partner put doors where windows used to be and made those fire escapes happen. And early morning, I had a meeting with the fire department for approval of those fire escapes. The parents and students that were attending was the first day of school. They were waiting outside in the streets to come in, and we were having that meeting
Yeah.
early in the morning, and they stamped it with a stamp of approval, gave me a actual certificate that I didn't have, but which really worried me when the inspector didn't give me a approval in writing. And they went out the fire escape as the students came in for the first day of school, and I welcomed them.
So cute.
It was stress, but it worked. And it was all because of community and community effort. It would have never happened if I had just, you know, fallen over into a flood of tears. It would have stopped right then. But because I pushed on because I was so passionate about doing it and wanting it to happen, it became reality. And it has grown and grown and grown in the last 30 plus years to a wonderful school. Now we have about 300 plus students, and we've had many, many students and many graduations because now we're all the way kindergarten through 12th grade. And here's the funny part about the name. I went to my community after my decision was when I had visual and auditory parents who wanted their visual and auditory students in my school. So I became flexible again on this name because I had thought about it for 3 years about hands-on learning is the perfect name. I had business cards all that said hands-on learning. All that had to change. So I went to my original community of 9 parents and I told them my dilemma. I said, if we're going to grow, we're going to have to be open and not just restrict it to kinesthetic learners, but to all kinds of learners. And they understood. And I said, but we got to change the name. And I said, I've racked my brain, but I can't think of any name that I like better than hands-on learning. So I said, I need your help. And so that very night when I made that announcement, I had a dad of one of my parents call me and he said, Sandy, I got the perfect name for the school. And I said, what? I couldn't even imagine. He said, Telesis, call it Telesis. And I said, I've never heard of that word. I don't even know what that means. What does it mean? He says, I don't know. It's a name that's so marketable. That's what he kept saying, marketable. And, he wasn't a teacher. He was a carpenter. In fact, I could have called him to help me build those fire escapes, but I didn't think of that. I thought of my friend Steve. He said, yes, marketable. It's a marketable plan name. You could telesis. And I said, well, can I think about it for a little while? Like I didn't have any hope that this could possibly be the name of what I wanted to name the school. He said, sure. So we hung up and I went to the dictionary. Remember that book that you turn and there's lots of words? Yeah,
Yeah.
because there wasn't internet then. So I,
Yeah.
I went to the dictionary and I found the word with a lowercase t. And then the first thing I know, he was pronouncing it wrong. It wasn't telesis, it was telesis. Telesis. And it meant a Greek word that meant planned progress, bringing forth wonderful things, bringing to fruition. The more I thought about it, the more I said, I like this. This could work. That's what we were doing, individualized instruction. We were small class size. We were planning their progress. So telesis, telesis. So the more I thought about it, the more it grew on me. And I changed the name to Telesis Preparatory Academy that very day. And new business cards, all of that had to happen. And it did within time. And we advertised it. And it was for all learning modalities, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, all students. And we grew and we grew and we grew because I was flexible with my dream. And that's one of
Mhm.
my good things that I advise in my book that I wrote.
Mhm.
It's called Power of Community. And in chapter 3, it's an anthology, and chapter 3 is my chapter that's all about why the power of community helped me start a school. And I explain it. It's available on Amazon.
Okay.
And I tell many stories like the one I just shared to you about the fire department and about the name change. Those stories are in there, but many other stories of over the 30 years that I've been working at this that have made it possible to start a school in my small community, because it was very small then. It's bigger now, but it's thriving and doing so well today. And I'm still the superintendent. I hired a principal, so I have a new principal as of 5 years ago. She's been doing a great job, and so that's the story. And now I'm helping others start schools wherever they live because, hey, we've got this thing called Zoom, right? So it's easy to talk to people from far away. So am helping various people in other places as far away as Canada. Yeah, helping them start schools. So how do you start your dream school? You get a community, because community will make it happen.
I love that you are flexible on your dream, but not on your mission. And
Correct.
that I think is what I heard over and over again in your story. And then how you also kept coming back to community. And that's also very similar to my story, what kind of what I'm trying to do with the podcast. I could not pull this off of making this audio diary without my community. And it's just a reminder of just as humans, we're all in this race together. What would I say? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And no matter what we're doing, whether we're putting on a podcast or writing a book or building a school, absolutely takes a community of everyone bringing their skills, the fire department, the carpenter with the building the ladder, and the name change, and then your scholastic talent, and I mean just everyone bringing it together to do it. And so I love that your story is such a good example of that, and that you share it and that you put it together in your book to help inspire others, because we all have something to contribute to something bigger, even if you're not pronouncing it correctly. I mean, you're still contributing it. And I love that you're able to help people. Not only did you help build your school, but you're helping other people build theirs. You didn't just stop and say, okay, I'm good, you know.
Right, exactly. In fact, I had a friend who I really can't believe that she misunderstood, but she thought as soon as my son graduated from Telesis, which he did in 1997, when he graduated from Telesis, she thought I would pack things up and that'd be the end of it. That was a long time ago. I'm still at it. Yeah, so no, it's a lifelong dream, and I'm still in it for the long haul. So I could, you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right?
That
With
was
my
gonna be
baby.
that was gonna be my question. So I definitely, like, it is just palpable, your love and your passion for this. And I know when you're doing something out of true joy, that's what it looks like. And I know that your son is the spark of that joy. And so what then became that once he was graduated?
Yeah.
What kept that fire going for you?
Because every student that entered our school, I saw it as my responsibility to make it the best that it could be. So they were just like mini versions of my own son. So, and of course, our grade levels grew too. We started out with sixth, seventh, and eighth graders. No, I'm sorry. We started out with seventh and eighth graders only. Then we added sixth. Then we added eighth and ninth, and we got bigger and bigger on both ends. We kind of grew like this, and because my first love was kindergarten, of course, but I knew we couldn't just start at kindergarten. There was much more out there. So we started in the middle so it could include my son. And it's always been a passion. It still is a passion. I'm there every day. I I'm certainly a semi-retired superintendent. I'm not in making all the hard decisions, but I'm still a member and president of the board that helps to officiate a public charter school, because we became a public charter school in the year 2000, because I applied for a charter school application and got it and got the charter in 2000. So been in good standing to this day, and we're still going strong. We graduate seniors now. We just graduated our last class that managed to get through the pandemic, and we've met many hurdles along the way, but we've mastered all of them. We've found answers to all of them. And my purpose is to do it with community. and because I have some strong community members that I turn to when the going gets tough. The tough get going, and that's what it is, right? There's another one.
And
Sure,
that
another
that
thing that we have to lean on.
so you mentioned the original 9. Are they still involved?
Yes and no. They're not as involved as they were, but I have parents and students come back to me all the time and tell me how grateful and how happy they were to have me as a partner in their child's education. Or the students grow up and come back and they serve as guest speakers at graduation time, or they roll up their sleeves and help us. I had a student that was in the military as an officer, and he used to ask me every year, when can I be a speaker, when can I come and help, until I got almost ad nauseum. But I had to give him something to do, and he was in Kentucky. I said, you're going to have to fly way out here to Arizona. And he says, that's okay, I want to do it. I want to pay you back for you took me at a time when I wasn't a real good student, or a real had some trying behaviors, I'll put it that way, and you did it. So he says, I owe it to you. So I put him on as a keynote speaker for our next graduation with my fingers crossed, and it worked out beautifully. We took lots of pictures. He met with the graduates. He was stellar. I couldn't, they all grow up, they all grow up, and you just have to give them the benefit of the doubt and help them. And that's what I did, and I'm still doing it today, so it's all good. And the stories that you and your listeners will read in my chapter of the power of community will tell you about the compassion, the courage, the collaboration that it takes. I call those the 3 C's. Those 3 C's make a huge difference in how our school operates. We do it a little bit differently because we're still very much a public school, no tuition, but that tuition free basis it comes doesn't come easily. We have to be accredited, and we've done all those hard things, but we've also kept our mission, like you said, in place. It's never changed one single word since the first day that I wrote it. So it's all very, very doable, and others can do it too. And if I can do anything for anybody else, I want to connect with people that are passionate about starting a school. And with my new school called School Founders Academy, which is the name of my new school, that I help others in other places to start their own dream school and not be afraid and not let the naysayers kick you to the curb. No, no. You tell those naysayers, stay back. You've got it. You know what to do. And I help them with that, kind of as a counselor, a consultant, to know that the obstacles are there, but there's answers to all of it, especially if you capitalize on your community to help you. And when I first started, I was telling the world, and I quickly learned that that's not the way to do it. Tell the world, because you're going to get negative. They think they're doing you a service, a good service. Don't do that, Sandy. Oh, you can't do that. Think of the liability. You can't do that. They'll try and talk you out of it. But the passion was burning so brightly in my gut. I had to do it. I had to do it. So I had to march forward. And I'm so glad that I did, because it made a huge difference to the school that exists today. And my son is thriving and doing wonderful. To give you an update on him, he has since come back to our community, and he is technology driven, was his passion. He is our technology coordinator and doing a wonderful job at it. And I'm grateful for him every day. And he was a graduate of our school. And we have many Telesis graduates now that some of them have taught for me as teachers. Some of them have come back just to thank me. One is a dentist. One got a degree, a double degree in from MIT. Yes, he got 2 degrees at the same time. I never even knew that was possible.
I didn't think so
So,
either.
yeah, it's just great things have happened to him. Fortunately, because of Facebook, I'm able to keep in touch with all of them, and it is very, very does the heart good to know that I did the right thing. Yes.
One of the things that has been just a common thread with everyone I've spoken to recently has been burnout. And I can tell just in speaking with you, you are in no way burned out.
No way. There's too much work to be done. I don't have time for burnout.
What would you say? What is your secret weapon? Why are you not burned out?
Well, it all goes, and every teacher in your audience will understand this. It's not, as you know, teachers aren't paid the highest of every profession that's out there, and that's hurting us because we've lost people that we should be holding on to. But educators, the paycheck isn't what does it for them. It's the rewards that they glean from the students that are so successful. Have a student that has an aha moment, as we call it, an aha moment, and learn something that you've imparted to them. Teachers get addicted to that, and they should, because it's a great high. It really is, to have students be successful because of something you've imparted to them. And that's what makes floats my boat. I can tell you that, with the students' success and their success after they leave our school in so many ways. That's the supercharge of why I do what I do. That's what keeps me energized, is their success. If they weren't successful and everything ended up in a flat tire at the end of the road, I would have burned out a long time ago. But it's the success that the students, even the little baby steps, the success that students have in the classroom and beyond, is the motivating factor for sure.
Love it. So uh, take us through all of your all your places where people can find you online. Your school, your founder academy, your book, all those
Absolutely.
different links.
The school is easy. It's just to simply go to our website and you'll learn a lot about our school. It is telesis-academy.org. That's our website. Telesis, that's telesis like the beginning of telephone. Tele, one L, TELESIS dash or hyphen academy.org. That will get you to our website, and my School Founders Academy will help too. That also is, School Founders, all one word, lowercase, School Founders with an S at the end of founder, School Founders and dot academy. And that will get you to my School Founders Academy. And it will tell you a lot about me, a lot about what my mission is for that school,
Mhm.
to help other people start their school. And they can also read my book, and that's available on Amazon. It's chapter 3. It's an anthology about lots of different communities, but my chapter is the only one about starting a school. And that 2,500 words that they're going to read, they're going to get a lot of amazing stories that I don't have time to share with you today. But it's worth the price of the book to read those stories, and they will be confident in all of those websites that I gave you earlier are in the book too. So they'll have contact information of how to reach out to me, and more than what I'm providing you with today. So I am very available and welcome. I do a 1 hour workshop every month, and our next one is coming up on July 12th. That's a Saturday morning, Pacific Standard Time, 10 o'clock. And July 12th, I would love it if they would register on my website for that workshop, and we'll send them the link. My assistant
Exciting
and
is
I.
that?
Uh-huh, that's right. And so it's simply go to the School Founders Academy, and that's the way they'll be able to register for the link, or they can contact me at Sandy at School Founders. That's my email address.
Perfect.
Sandy with a Y, SANDY at School Founders Academy, and that will get them the email.
Perfect.
I can send them the link myself. So,
Perfect.
or have a conversation with them if they choose. However they want to contact me, just reach out. I'm out there.
This is wonderful. I have loved hearing your story.
Thank
Starting a
you.
school is not something I ever thought a person could do, like beyond the government. So I'm glad to hear you
Well,
share.
remember, one of those 3 C's is courage. It
Yes, so
definitely takes
true.
courage. And I wish I had had a person like me to talk to when I I was starting because my parents, my own parents, aren't
Mhm.
teachers. My mom was a housewife, my dad was a salesman, and they just had faith in their daughter, fortunately, and they helped me all they could, but they weren't teachers. I had really no one except some naysayers to talk to who tried to talk me out of it. And today they're convinced. Now they understand what I did and they're glad I did it.
I am too. I mean, it's like for those that want to start a school, it's great to have a pioneer, but also for those that want to do just anything that hasn't been thought of or done before.
Absolutely.
Like you have people who open hairdressers or open restaurants or
This
you
applies universally. I mean,
yes.
I have one of my clients wants to start an art school. Well, I'm certainly not an artist. She's an artist, but I'm helping her with that. So there's lots of people that maybe don't have the same definition of a school. Maybe it's a welding school or
Yep.
maybe it's a real estate school. The principles are all basically the same. So I'm willing to help anybody that has a school in their heart of any kind for children or adults to contact me, and I will certainly share with them everything. I think I've in 35 years, I think I've hit about just about every obstacle in starting a school that could happen.
I love it. And thank you for your time today. It was so good to connect with you. I love your energy and your story
Thank
and
you.
what you're doing to not only change the lives of those right now, but those that are yet to come. Well,
Absolutely.
I
I'm
really
not
appreciate
through
you
yet.
connecting. Thank
Thank
you
you,
so much.
Jillian, so much. Bye bye.